What's up, fam? So for my next blog post, I'm diving into a little bit of astrology, and I'm talking about when love feels off. Study your astrological love language for insight. Wish I had this lesson years ago, because for the longest time, I was the type of woman that loved too big, too much, and too soon. But then when I started studying astrology, I saw that my Venus was in Leo. So, Leos, that's big energy, grand displays of affection, everything over the top. So when you're given that too much too fast, you're bound to have, situations where it's not appreciated. And, that's what I ran into. So, but once I learned that, I learned to temper my tendencies to move too fast. Because knowing your astrological love language, it's about energy. Fuck romance. We talking about energy. So being a student of psychology, I know that astrology isn't a science. You can't deny that it does point to some tendencies in people. And it'd be pretty damn accurate too. Christians tend to speak against astrology, yet you find references to it in the Bible. One reference, Genesis 1:14. Let there be lights in the heavens, and let them be for signs and seasons. So our indigenous ancestors, they understood the movement of the stars. They followed the movement of the stars. So that's what I do. Now, I'm not a pro at it. I dabble. The main player in your astrological love language is Venus. Venus governs love, beauty, and attraction. You have those fire Venuses, that's Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So passionate, enthusiastic, unapologetic. And then you have those earth Venuses, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. And those Venuses are loyal and grounded. Then you have the air Venuses. You got Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And those air Venuses are intellectually driven. Last but not least, the water Venus, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Those Venuses are emotional and intuitive. So with me being a fiery Venus, my love style is fiery, generous, and expressive. But the problem I have of expressing that is my Venus squares Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of unpredictability. So I need security and spontaneity, consistency and excitement. So I need to learn the balance. I didn't realize that until I had an experience with a Venus in Capricorn. Me, I wanted to be adored and these grand gestures of, professing his love. But yet, him being a Venus in Capricorn, his love was steady, pay the bills, make sure, I could depend on him, very dependable. But showing, affection, nah, that wasn't his bag. So that was a misalignment for me. So I had to end that relationship. Other planets shape your astrological love language as well. Next up, there's Mars, then the Moon, then the asteroid Juno. And then when you understand how all these placements work together, you start to see your unique emotional blueprint. There's power in understanding this blueprint. You begin to understand your own energy and what will be compatible with it, or what will align with it. Because I think we need to shift from compatibility to alignment. So once you understand your energy, you understand the energy that will align with it. And being fully aware of your energy grounds you. And we need that grounding, especially in this current dating scene. Whoo, boy, we be having all types of jokers coming our way. But when you know your energy, you know what works for you and what doesn't. Rather than you trying to fit in to their mode and to their energy. You're seeing what fits into yours. And then you can discern, set boundaries, and make better decisions for yourself. And you don't need the other person's chart. You don't need the other person's chart to understand that energy. Just be aware of what they're showing you. And just ask the question, does this align with my energy and what I want? Period. But before you make those choices in other people, you have to love yourself in your own language. So me being a Venus in Leo that loves to be adored and loves grand gestures, I buy myself flowers and I get all dressed and take myself out to dinner. You know, I spoil me. I spoil me. And that's me loving myself in Venus and Leo. And that raises my vibration. If energy comes that doesn't match that, I immediately, nope, nope, not happening. And then when you start loving yourself like that, you stop begging for reciprocity because you're giving it to yourself. But it takes practice. It does take practice. It took me a long time to practice, but I got it now. But it takes practice. So on my blog post, I give you a section called Do Your Inner Work. And in that section, there's an exercise, a journal prompt, and an affirmation to get that practice in. Because the more I study astrology, the more I realize it isn't about predicting love. It's about protecting my energy. I learned to stop chasing potential and start honoring alignment. So that frequency every woman has, that rhythm our souls dance to, we often dim that rhythm to match someone who's out of tune. And knowing our energy helps us to recognize when love flows and when it drains. And that is spiritual maturity. Alignment is sacred. So stop shrinking and stop waiting for permission to glow. You were born with your own divine frequency. So love yourself loudly, boldly, and without apology. Until next time, peace.